Everyone, welcome to your Destination Reader lesson today, and this is super exciting because we're going to begin reading Varjak. This is our second lesson of 25 lessons. Okay, so I just want you to make sure that you've got a copy of the story, a strategy prompt sheet, a pencil or a pen, and a piece of paper or your home learning book. Go and get those things together and then press play and continue the lesson. Press pause now. Fantastic. Okay, so any key words or really important words I want you to know about will be written in red. Any questions for you to answer will be in blue, and writing time will be written in green. You're also going to come across the symbols, and this means that I want you to say your answer out loud, and also I want you to write it down. Okay. Varjak by S.F. Syed. This cat must learn to fight. Right, we're going to think about today strategy number 2. Yesterday we did some great work on predicting, and we all predicted what we thought was going to happen. We looked at the front cover, we looked at the back cover, we looked at the blurb, illustrations, and we came up with some really great predictions about what we think will happen in the story. Well, today and this week, we're going to be asking questions. So here's my question to you. Why do good readers ask questions? I want you to remember back to our learning that we've done at school. Have a little think. Say your answer out loud, then write it down on your piece of paper or home learning book. Why do good readers ask questions? Do that now. Press pause. Okay, fantastic. You're back, and here's what I've said. I've said that good readers ask questions as they read because it helps them to understand what is happening in the story. Asking questions also keeps the reader interested and want to read more. And this is so true. If you're really asking questions and thinking, you're really engaged with the text, you're really understanding it. When you're reading, little questions should just pop into your mind. I wonder why she did that. I wonder where he's going. I wonder what could happen. I wonder if this will happen. We're always thinking about what's happening in the story. And remember as well that in Destination Reader, when we ask questions, it's a little strange because we don't give answers. We don't always have the answers. Some of our questions, we just don't know what the answer is going to be. We just don't know yet. We're thinking, I wonder if they're going to go to that way or that place. Okay, here's Queenie the questioner. Say, hi, Queenie. Okay, so Queenie is thinking of some question words and some question starters. I want you to think of some question words or question starters. Okay, I just want you to say your question ideas out loud. Do that now. Press pause. Okay, so you've got lots of different question starters that you know. Brilliant. Here are the ones that Queenie's thinking about. She's thinking, I wonder. And she's thinking, why? And she's also thinking, how? And what if? And I think that. And she's also thinking, how do I know? And that's because good readers ask questions before, during, and after reading. Okay, so they're going to, before we even start, we've got some questions. We've got lots of questions already about Varjak. Like, how does he learn to fight, and why does he leave the house? So I've got lots of questions about Varjak already. And then when we're reading, we're going to build up more questions. And then sometimes when we finish, we think back and we go, oh gosh, I wonder what's going to happen now. And I wonder why that happened. And how did I know that? And we think about questions when we've finished the book too. And that means that we've really understood the author and the meaning of the text. Okay, our vocabulary. My turn, ancestor, your turn. My turn, ancestor, your turn. Ancestor, 3 syllables. So an ancestor is a person whom you are related to or you're descended, you come from, okay? So this usually refers to somebody several generations back. So it's not your parents, it's not your grandparents, it's further back than that. Your ancestor might be your great-grandparent, your great-great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents. They would be your ancestors. So it's quite a far back people that you are related or related to. They're your ancestor. My turn trickled, your turn. My turn trickled, your turn. Trickled. Let's have a look at that word. That is a past tense word, and I know that because it's got ed at the end. Trickle or will trickle be future, and trickle, to trickle, or it would be the present, and trickled is the past tense. We've been learning about that in English. So we're just linking with our English. And to trickle is to flow in a thin, slow stream. So perhaps you turn on the tap just a tiny little bit and just the water just trickles out. Or you've come to the end of an orange juice carton, let's say, and you pour up the orange juice carton, there's hardly any in there. And it just trickles out in a little slow stream, okay? That's just trickling out. Trickled. My turn stealthy, your turn. My turn stealthy, your turn. So stealthy, it's to move around quietly and carefully and secretively so that you're not heard or noticed. So you might be moving around stealthy, okay? And so really it's a very secretive, quiet way of moving. Stealthy. Okay, great. So we're going to begin reading. I have got my book here. I'm going to go to chapter 1, which is on page 7 of my book. And I'm going to begin and I'm going to read. And I want you to follow along. And we're going to stop at some points to ask questions. So, are you ready? Ready to follow along? Chapter 1. Let's go. The elder Paul was telling a story. It was a Jalal tale, one of the best. Vajek loved to hear his grandfather's tales of their famous ancestor, how Jalal fought the fiercest warrior cats, how he was the mightiest hunter, how he came out of the Mesopotamia and travelled to the ends of the earth, further than any cat had been before. But today, the elder Paul's tale just made Vajek restless. So what if Jalal had such exciting adventures? Vajek never would. Jalal had ended his days in the Contessa's house. His family of Mesopotamian blues had stayed here ever since. And I'm going to stop there because I've got a couple of questions. I'm thinking to myself, what is a Mesopotamian blue? And I'm also thinking, I wonder why Vajek's family have never left the Contessa's house. You might have some questions as well. Okay, let's keep reading and see what else happens and what other questions pop into our mind as I read. The old place must have been full of light and life in Jalal's time, generations ago, but now it was full of dust and musty smells. The windows were always closed, the doors locked. There was a garden, but it was surrounded by a high stone wall. Jalal was the last to cross it. In all the years since then, no one had ever left the Contessa's house. Now, no one except Vajek was even listening to the tale of Jalal's adventures. Father, mother, and Aunt Junie were dozing in the late afternoon light that trickled through the thick green windows. His big brother Julius was flexing his muscles. His cousin Jasmine was fiddling with her collar. His litter brothers, Jay, Jethro, and Jerome, were playing one of those kittenish games that Vajek could never see the point of and wasn't allowed to join in anyway. No one was looking at him. This was his chance. He'd been in the garden before, but the family didn't like it out there and never let him stay very long. Stealthy as Jalal himself, Varjak rose up and padded to the cat door. He could see the garden on the other side. He could almost feel the fresh air brushing through his whiskers. He nudged it open. "Varjak Poor!" It was Father. "Where do you think you are going?" Varjak spun around. The tale was over. They'd woken up and seen him. But this time he wouldn't give in. "Aren't we allowed in the garden now?" he said. "Sweetheart," said Mother, coming over and straightening his collar, "the garden is a nasty, dirty place. You are a pedigree cat, a purebred Mesopotamian blue. What do you want out there?" And I'm going to stop there because I've got more questions that are just popping into my mind as I read. My first question, I'm thinking, why was Varjak the only one listening to the tale of Jalal's adventures? Everybody else wasn't interested, just Varjak. And I'm just also thinking, well, what if Varjak had defied his mum and left the house to go into the garden anyway? What if he just ignored her and went out into the garden anyway? What would happen then? Oh gosh, I've got so many more questions. I bet you've got lots of questions popping into your mind too. I'm going to keep reading and then we're all going to ask some questions. Varjak looked around at the stuffy furniture, the locked-up cupboards, the curtains he wasn't allowed to climb. He'd never been anywhere else, but this had to be the most boring place on earth. "Hunting," he said. "Aren't we supposed to hunt? The tales talk about—" "Tales?" snorted his big brother Julius, green eyes glinting. It was said that their ancestor Jalal had green eyes. Everyone in the family had them. Everyone but Varjak Poor. "Tales are for kittens," scoffed Julius. Cousin Jasmine giggled. Varjak bristled. "Jalal was a long, long time ago," said Mother, smoothing and grooming Varjak's silver blue fur until he wriggled away. "Anyway, Jalal came to live in the Contessa's house for a good reason. The tales also say there are monsters outside, huge monsters called dogs, so fierce that even people fear them." She shuddered. "Oh, no, we're lucky that the Contessa loves us and lets us live here." "The Contessa loves some of us," interrupted Julius. Varjak knew what was coming, and worse, he thought it might be true. "When I was a kitten," boasted Julius, "the Contessa was down here every day. She used to let me play on her lap. She made a fuss of me. But now she only ever comes down to feed us, and sometimes she doesn't even do that. In fact, we've hardly seen her at all since that funny-looking Varjak was born." Cousin Jasmine giggled again. This time Varjak's little brothers, Jay, Jethro, and Jerome joined in. "It's because of his eyes," added Julius. "The colour of danger, a Mesopotamian blue whose eyes aren't green. It's an embarrassment." That did it. Julius was bigger than him and older, but Varjak couldn't help it. He faced up to Julius, fur rising with anger. "I don't believe you," he said. "You're a liar." "Varjak," said Father, "that's no way to speak to your brother." "But Julius said—" "Whine, whine, whine," said Julius. "Listen to the little insect whine." "Julius, you shouldn't tease him so much," said Father. "The Contessa's upstairs because she's ill. Nothing more. But Varjak Poor, you will have to learn to behave like a proper Mesopotamian blue. We're noble cats, special cats. We don't run around calling each other liars. We don't talk about disgusting things like hunting, and we don't get our paws all muddy in the garden. That's not what being a blue is about. Do you understand?" Oh my goodness, I'm going to stop there. I've got lots of questions. I want to know, why is Varjak the only member of the family who doesn't have green eyes? And I really want to know, who is the Contessa? Have a look at the question words that I've used on this page. I've used why and who and how do we know. I want you to try and use different question words. Use your sentence stem, your sheet to help you as well. Okay, what questions do you have? I want you to think of 2 really good questions. Have a think, say your answer out loud, and then write your 2 questions down on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. What questions do you have? Do that now. Press pause. Okay, great, and I wish I could hear your questions. I bet you've come up with some really interesting ones. Let's keep reading. We're down the bottom of page 11. Varjak's tail curled up. It was always like this. Julius could get away with anything, but everything Varjak did was wrong. Your father's talking to you, said Aunt Junie sternly. Do you understand? He stared down at the cold stone floor, silent. There was nothing he could say. Fine, said Father, suit yourself, but until you learn to act like a blue, there'll be no supper for you. He licked his chops. Come on, everyone, let's eat. They all headed down the corridor to the kitchen, leaving Varjak on his own in the hallway between the stairs and the front door. Last to go was the elder Paw, the head of the family. Don't worry, Varjak, he whispered so no one else could hear. I'll tell you another tale Jalal tell tonight, one about his greatest battle. He winked and then joined the rest of them. It made things a little better. Even if the tales made Varjak restless, he loved them. They were the closest he'd ever get to adventure in this place. He looked at the old wooden stairs covered in dusty carpet. The cats weren't allowed up there now the Contessa was ill. Her door was always shut. The whole house was like that. No one came in and no one went out. Nothing new or exciting ever happened. It was the dullest life a cat could have. Creak! The front door swung open. A blast of wind swirled in, sweeping all the dust into the air. Varjak's fur stood on end. Click, clack. 2 shiny black shoes, each big as a cat, coming through the door. Heart racing, Varjak bent back his head to follow the line above the shoes. Up a pair of legs, up some more. He saw huge white hands, huge enough to hold his whole body, strong enough to break his neck. And we're going to stop there. I've got some more questions. Well, everybody keeps saying he needs to behave like a Mesopotamian blue, so I want to know, how is a blue supposed to behave? And I also want to know, how do we know that Varjak is frightened of the person who walked through the door? What questions do you have? I want you to have a little think. Say your questions out loud, then write them down on a piece of paper in your home learning book. I want you to write down 2 questions. What questions do you have? Press pause now. Okay, fantastic. You're back and we're going to keep reading. And we're at the top of page 14. This is getting really exciting now. I wonder who this man is. I bet some of you had that as your question. That would be a really good question. I'm going to read and I want you to follow along. He had to crane back even further till it hurt to see the face. It was a man Varjak had never seen before. It was hard to make out the man's eyes for the shadows of his brow, but his full pink lips glistened wetly in the half-light. The lips creased and opened, and out came a voice that rumbled like thunder far above Varjak's head. The man strode into the hallway. Varjak felt dizzy. He looked down. By the man's shiny black shoes there were 2 sleek black cats, stalking into the Contessa's house. They were nothing like a Mesopotamian blue. They looked much larger and stronger, even than Father or Julius, and there was something frightening about the way they moved, as if they were two parts of one body working together perfectly. Too perfect. Varjak glanced from one to the other and couldn't tell them apart. They came right up to him and looked down at him with identical eyes as smooth and black as their fur. He trembled. "Who are you?" he said. There was no flicker of understanding in their eyes, no expression, nothing. They just pushed him aside as if he wasn't even there and took up positions flanking the staircase. And now other men came into the house. Their shiny black shoes clicked past Varjak, one by one by one. It was all he could see of them, frozen to the spot. Mind spinning, he watched these giants pass their black cats, climb the stairs, and into the room where the Blues weren't allowed to go. And at the end of our chapter, we've got lots of questions popping into our minds now. And here are my questions. I said, why do you think the man and the cats have come to the Contessa's house? And I've also said, why aren't the Blues allowed in the room at the top of the stairs? They're my questions. What questions do you have? Try and experiment with different question starter words. Have a little think, say your questions out loud, and then make a note of them on your home learning book or on your piece of paper. What questions do you have? I want you to write 2 questions. Do that now. Press pause. Okay, well, what an explosive start to the book. What an exciting start to the book. There are so many questions that the author has got us really thinking about. And tomorrow we're going to continue reading Varjak Poor, and we're going to continue asking questions. You could make a list of all the questions you have had so far today. You might have more questions that you want to know and find out about. Well done, everybody, for joining in today's lesson. I hope you are enjoying the book just as much as I am. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.